Okay, this is Orlando Wilson. What I want to talk about in this video is something which to me is essential to business, but a lot of people neglect. It's essential to any type of business. It's essential to anything you do in life. And that's due diligence. You always need to check out the people you're dealing with, etc., etc. Okay, we'll call it due diligence from a security business, same as threat assessment, risk assessment, etc. You're always checking out whoever you're doing business with, where you're going, what you're doing, etc. Now, in this video, I'm going to talk about due diligence for investment purposes, for investors. And over the years, I've dealt with numerous investigations where clients have got themselves into a lot of problems because they neglected to do sufficient due diligence on the people they were dealing with, the companies they were dealing with. And again, this happens for various reasons. No disrespect to the clients, but a lot of times it's down to their egos, etc. They believe what they've been told. They believe the patter. They believe the sales pitch. They believe what the scammers are telling them, and they end up getting themselves into a lot of trouble. The main reason I have seen for people not doing due diligence is because the scammers will sell them a very, very good story that they believe, and they believe in their minds there's no reason for due diligence. They're too trusting. They're nice people. This nice person that's talking to them, taking them out to dinner, is not going to scam them. He's just a nice person. He's a good businessman. He's credible, etc. All this is good until they end up losing a lot of money, and in many cases, millions of dollars. Tends to disappear very, very quickly. I'll tell you one case, one story. And this is something I dealt with years ago in London. And this happened in, well, the actual issues happened in one of the Baltic countries, so we say. The client approached me and he'd lost, if I remember right, about 1.9 million USD. He invested it with a gentleman, stock shares, etc., commodities. And in a very short period of time, he made a lot of money, and then everything disappeared. Why? The investment went bad. I met the gentleman. I met him in London, and we had the conversation. He explained what happened. He'd actually met the person he invested the money with. He met him through a recommendation. He had some excess money. He wanted to invest. He wanted to make more money. Again, this is where the hook comes in. He was greedy. So he flew to this Baltic country, met this gentleman, very professional, turned up, very nice new Mercedes, took him around, took him out for dinner, showed him some apartment buildings he owned, a hotel he had a large percentage of stock in, etc., etc. He was a businessman, right? But the fact was, this gentleman didn't own the apartment buildings. I take it he paid off the concierge, etc., to say he was the owner, which most probably cost him a few $100s. Which, if he knew people that worked in the apartment buildings, he could go in, drop some money, and say, yeah, when I turn up with this potential client, this person I'm going to scam, then just pretend I'm the owner, which they did. When they took him to the hotel, same thing. Everybody in the hotel knew him. I take it he paid some money, etc., etc. Everybody knew him. So it was very easy for the gentleman that got scammed to actually believe that this person was a successful businessman. He owned stock in a hotel. He owned a couple of condo buildings, apartment buildings, etc., etc. So what happened was, once the victim, shall we say, sent his money over to this person, the online trading, this person was running an online trading site, and for the first few months, this gentleman, the client, done very, very well. He was making big money, but he didn't take any of his money out. Next thing he knows, in a couple of months, very, very quickly, he makes a loss, and then he loses everything. He loses everything to the point where he owed the scammer $60,000. Now, what could the gentleman do to get his money back? There's not much he could do. He invested it. It's gone. And the scammer's defense was, okay, it's a high-risk investment. You made good money. There was an issue. We lost everything. Such is life. Now can I have my $60,000, please? Which my client was like, of course, you're not getting anything. This is where the client contacted me, etc., etc. Once we'd done the basic due diligence on the scammer, it turned out he had warrants on him. He had fled from the US. He had warrants on him from scamming from the US. He had judgments against him from several European countries. He'd been involved in a lot of scams for millions of dollars. He was a very, very successful scammer. Very. What happened with that case is the scammer, because we took, how can I put it, we started taking action against this person in their country, in Latvia, and as a result, it was a very, very messy investigation from our perspective. I think several cops got fired because they were working with the scammer. They was telling them what was going on, etc., etc. There's a lot of issues with the case, and a lot of internal issues which you come across once you're dealing in those days an emerging country where the legal system can be a little bit fuzzy. Anyway, long story short, what ended up the ultimate, the end game with this was the scammer actually took my client to court in London, took him to an arbitration court. And the arbitrator asked my client, asked the victim, he said, okay, well, we need, for this court to go on, you need to put down $10,000, £10,000. And the client was like, I'm not giving you a penny. What happened then is the arbitrator gave a split decision between the client and the scammer. Even though we put into the arbitrator saying, look, this guy, the scammer couldn't come to the arbitration court in London because he had warrants out for him. We alerted City of London Police, and they said to me, it's like, you know what, if this guy turns up in UK, we will arrest him. He's got warrants out of the US. But he couldn't go to court in London. He couldn't go to the arbitration court. And even though we told the arbitrator, we sent him this guy's record from previous scams throughout Europe, we sent him his copies of his warrants from the US, etc., etc., he still gave a split decision. Why? Because the arbitrator, it's a civil court, they're worried about money. And give City of London Police their dues. They're like, okay, all this is civil. There's nothing we can do about it in London. Nothing's happened in London, but we can arrest him on the warrants out of US if he sets foot in London. This is where that scammer was very, very professional. He knew what he was doing, and he set the client up, set the victim up from day one. And I've said in other videos, if these scammers, a lot of these scammers are very professional. They'll put a lot of time and effort into their scams, into their games. For them, it's a business. And if you think about now, he took that one person for $1.9 million. If you're going to do a business deal where you intend to make $1.9 million within a couple of months, how much planning and preparation you're going to put into that deal? Not only to take the money, but also to deal with the legal ramifications afterwards. He understood the international legal system. So, you know what, with that judgment from the arbitrator in London, that cleared him. It didn't clear him in that case. Well, it gave him, it did clear him. It gave him a split judgment where, okay, if any law enforcement approached him afterwards, or people approached him, say, okay, I got a legal document from a court in London, an arbitration court in London, saying such is life. So this is where the scammers are very, very professional, not just in setting up the clients, but also working out how to deal with the aftermath in the cases. So this is where, if you're doing any type of investment, due diligence is essential. Check out the people you're dealing with, check out the companies you're dealing with, and take nothing at face value. Because again, a lot of these projects, if they seem too good to be true, the chances are they are too good to be true. So just a little story. In the meantime, follow me along on social media. I prefer LinkedIn these days, but we're up on most of the other social media platforms. If you have any relevant questions, feel free to reach out to me, reach out to us, reach out to my companies, Risk Inc., or reach out through the blog. If you got any, and don't forget, we also supply due diligence services, advisory services for investors, be it real estate, be it commodities, be it whatever. So please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or require services. In the meantime, as always, be good, stay safe, and stay out of trouble.